Oh, my darlings. Oh, also, this is called My Parents Sold All My Belongings for Revenge. So if you know this channel,
annoying or embarrassing.
It's a weird channel. So basically, it's my story animated. You'll see it a lot on YouTube. Just put that in full screen for you guys. It can be pretty funny, and it can be pretty weird, but I kind of enjoy it in a weird way. I think it's just the strangest thing. But let's get on with the video.
Embarrassing, but mine are downright evil. My life wasn't normal. It started when I was little. My parents had very high expectations of me.
Okay, so gonna butt in a little bit there. Parents always have high expectations of children. Like you'll never get away with it. That's the problem, because you are born for them. Cat's just absolutely bolted it. Yeah. When you're born, it's not like your parents have high expectations, it's the fact that they want you to succeed. They want you to be happy in what you're doing, basically. So I don't get when people say, oh, they have too much high expectations for me. It's just basically just saying that they want you to do well.
We're talking, you seriously won't believe what they did to me. See, my parents were both incredibly successful, and they expected me to.
Yeah, that can also happen. I get that they're incredibly successful, they want to give you the company, but you can't put all that pressure on someone. It's really hard for people at times.
And they didn't know how to deal with children or how to raise them correctly. Because of this, I never learned how to interact with other small children. Instead of giving me cake and ice cream, my parents convinced me that vegetables were a reward. I didn't get just vitamins when
Okay. So, they didn't get any sweets. They didn't get any. I get that. You want your kid to grow up healthy. I mean, I would not give a lollipop to a baby. Yeah, I get it that they don't have teeth, but they could choke on that. Then again, why would you give vegetables to a baby? You wouldn't. You give them milk. Weird.
when I was in fancy pantsuits. I never got them dirty or anything either. My parents encouraged me to develop my professional skills at a very young age.
See, that's another thing. You don't want your kid to grow up too quickly. You know, if your kid grows up too quickly, that can have a real bad mental well, it's a mental dint, really, because you want your kids to grow up as best they can, right? But if you make them grow up too quickly during childhood, when they're older, they'll want to relive their childhood sometimes. So that's also how things happen. So basically, I had traumatic experience when I was younger, and I have things that trigger me. So like, if I go to a toy shop, I'll want toys, I'll want to get some stuff. You know, I'll get really excited when I go to like Disneyland. Like, I will act like a kid. And I feel like that's me reliving my childhood that I didn't particularly have. Well, that's just deep.
I only read text or watched the news. The weirdest thing was that at the end of every week, I needed to make a report about what I had learned and how I could improve. Sometimes these reports were 10-page essays. Other times, they were full presentations.
Why would you make a 3-year-old kid do a presentation? Like, if I was her, I would just talk about colours and shapes. And not like, oh, by the way, I learnt pi something. I don't know, if 3-year-olds that clever? I don't know.
My parents told me I was going to grow up to be the best businesswoman of all time. They had my entire life planned out and had decided to train me towards it as young as possible. I didn't realize what was fun until I was about 4. I always felt jealous when I watched the neighbor kids playing with each other, even
Playing with each other. Okay.
though I'd never had a father. I felt so lonely. I decided to make a report about how a companion would increase my productivity. I got all dressed up in my little pantsuit and did a 45-minute presentation in the middle of our living room. They were impressed, and I really thought I'd won. My parents agreed to get me a companion.
So, I really hope this doesn't mean like a dating thing. Because she wants a friend, not a companion. She should have said friend, because companion sounds like she wants a boyfriend. Or she wants a partner. Then again, it's just someone to really talk to, because she seems like, as a 4-year-old, if she's got no friends, it can be really, really bad for stimulation, social skills. So, I get where she's coming from.
But it wasn't exactly what I expected. That's when my parents decided to hire a new nanny. At first, I was disappointed. I thought another adult just meant more fun evenings reading news articles and organizing files. Well, I'm happy to say I was wrong. My nanny was the only thing I had in my life growing up. She was my everything, and nothing at all like my parents.
Okay, so she asked for a friend, and she got a nanny. So I'm guessing this is gonna be one of those things where she's like, oh, she's my only friend. She took me out everywhere. She loved me, which is really sad when nannies actually love their. When children get loved more by a nanny than they do actually their parents. And I think what needs to happen is they just need to let a kid grow up how they want to grow up and do the career they want to do, instead of just pushing and forcing what you want them to do onto them, because it can just make them rebel.
I was shocked. I had worn gray, white, or black for as long as I could remember. My nanny walked in on her first day wearing a bright, flowy dress. She danced and sang songs, and even taught me different ways to do my hair. She was actually the one who convinced my parents that letting me choose my own clothes could be good for fostering creativity.
Well, there you go then. At least she is trying to help the kid out. She's trying to give the kid more of their own personality, which I think is kind of nice, really.
My parents didn't all agree. There were lots of times when she did things with me in private that my parents wouldn't have tolerated. Fun. My parents were away. I also had a little secret, as I didn't think my parents would react well if they found out what we were up to. Let's just say I wish I'd kept my mouth shut. It started with my 6th birthday party. That is, if you could even call it a party. No friends and no treats meant that my birthday celebration was pretty dull.
We had no
My parents made a
friends.
big salad with the 6 spelled out in tomatoes.
Where's the
Instead
cake?
of fun hats, we all wore very fancy suits. Even
That's
my nanny was
awful.
told she had to dress appropriately. We didn't play any fun games or sing any songs. We just took turns reading about famous publications that happened on my birthday.
That's awful. Kids need parties, kids need fun. If you don't give a kid fun, they'll have no social skills, they'll have no life. What is the point in having a boring childhood? Like, I don't get it.
To be honest, it was even more boring than a regular day. And when it came to my present, it was a calculator.
Wow.
I started crying about how a doll was the only thing I'd ever asked for. My parents were incredibly annoyed by my tantrum. They sent me right up to my room for being a brat. I lay there.
The only reason they called you a brat, honey, is because you didn't appreciate your gifts. But they're acting like you're a spoiled brat. I mean, I don't know their story. Like, you could actually be a spoiled brat, and they're just trying to turn you away from that. But at the same time, you really should fight for what you believe in and fight for what you want. But there's ways and means of doing it, and I don't think your parents are helping, sweetie.
Sobbing into my towel when Nanny popped in. She handed me another rectangular box and told me to keep it a secret. I opened the box slowly, skeptically, and expecting another disappointment. Inside that box, though, was a Barbie. I was so excited and hugged her very tightly. She put her finger up to her lips and shushed me. She told me to stay quiet and to be sure to hide it. My parents left me in my room for the rest of the day. It was supposed to be a punishment, but being in my room playing with my doll all day, It was honestly the most fun birthday I'd ever had.
At least you
One
had fun.
day, I guess I was having a little too much fun because I didn't even hear the footsteps approaching my room. Without even knocking, my mom burst in and asked what was so exciting about my being in my room. I quickly hid the Barbie behind my back, but it was too late. She ran over and ripped it from my hands. She accused me of stealing the doll and said I was in for a huge punishment. I cried so hard and explained that I didn't steal it at all. It was just a gift from my nanny, the gift I'd asked for. I really should have kept my mouth shut. She called my nanny in and fired her on the spot.
That's
She said that from now
awful.
on, she would take me to her office with her so she could watch me study. She pulled off the doll's head before throwing the pieces in the trash.
May, that is a toxic family. Why can't some parents just let the kids have fun? Especially with this, because she needed that. But then again, if she was in a punishment, she shouldn't have really had it anyway. She shouldn't be having fun during a punishment. And I get why she thinks that she stole it just because there was no way. But, so that means a nanny's not getting her money and lost her job. And now a kid's just depressed, so, yeah.
I think I laughed or smiled again for another year. That's when I started school. I know a lot of you think that school is boring and serious, but my upbringing made it feel like Disneyland. I got to play games and learn about the cool things that people my age
There you
enjoyed.
go,
The
that's
other
cool.
kids thought I was weird. I was overly polite and never got dirty or played outside. One time, a classmate pointed at me and laughed because I ate my pizza with a knife and fork. When I was maybe 10, I started watching all the TV shows my classmates did. I waited until my parents were out or asleep, snuck to the TV, and flipped on cartoons and dramas. I was only allowed to watch the news when my parents were
That's
around.
awful. No, you know,
Screamed so loudly. It made me the worst of it though. One day when I was crying in my room over how unfair it all was, she decided to take away my bedroom door.
oh my god.
Privacy must be. I never got that door back.
That's
I would say I
awful.
completely obeyed my parents from then on.
That means
I
that
got better
that
at
means they
hiding
watch you
stuff.
sleep.
I would go on regular study sessions with friends where we would just stay up and play video games.
Don't
I had
blame
bigger
you.
secrets in my little private Pokemon sessions, though. The biggest secret of my entire life was Jackson. He was the love of my life. His parents owned a taco stand by the private school I went to. He was nice and attractive, but poor.
Oh, he was nice and attractive, but poor. Why does it matter how much money someone has? It should really count on the personality. The personality is the best thing that you can have. Even if you're like the most beautiful woman in the world, if you have a shit personality, no one wants to be with you. Well, then again, have you met most men? If you have a nice body, a nice face, and you have a crap personality, then you need to change that. You know, I'm all about self-love and everything, but you really need to imagine what it's like for other people. It's like the media. So the media basically says, oh, you have to be really skinny and really beautiful to get a man. And it does affect a lot of women. I think everybody is beautiful as long as your personality is just as beautiful as well. If you have a rubbish personality and is nasty to everyone and enjoys bringing people down, then why bother? You know what I mean?
Money didn't matter to him. He took me to the movies, snuck me into parties. Best of all, he introduced me to painting.
There you
He would
go.
spend hours in the studio with me while my parents thought I was earning credits to diversify my application. He was my greatest supporter, and I truly loved him.
There you go.
We dated for about 7 months before my mom caught us kissing at
Oh,
school. We were
God's
normally
sake,
very careful,
Mom.
but I didn't expect my mom to actually show up on time. She dragged me into the car and didn't even acknowledge him. I was crying so hard, but my mom let me know that it was over. You can date who we tell you to date.
You
She
can't
explained
choose
bluntly.
who people
She took away my
date.
laptop and my cell phone as punishment. She said that from now on, she would be monitoring me much more closely. I told her that she couldn't stop me from dating somebody I loved. I was almost an adult. She said that was true, but good luck trying to date with all of these restrictions.
You're gonna hurt
She drove
yourself.
me to and from school and made it almost impossible for me to spend time with anyone she didn't know. The few times I did try to kiss Jackson goodbye, she just glared at him from the car window
Oh my
or made
God.
rude comments about how he didn't deserve me. It would ruin the moment. Eventually, he stopped showing up at my school altogether because he was so uncomfortable. The only time we were together was at the painting studio, which my mom still thought was for school credits. But even that was ruined when my mom decided to become a member and accompanied me to the studio. We tried to keep our romance blooming, but without my laptop or cell phone, it naturally faded away.
Well, obviously,
Jackson said he did.
Social media is a massive thing now. But it's like, people don't realise what it was like before social media and before laptops and phones. But if you've got strict parents, that also must be really hard.
Didn't want to date someone who's been to my friend's house and wept for hours that day. My mom was so smug about the whole thing and said that Jackson just wasn't right for me. My mom tried to set me up with a boy. I figured my mom wasn't that mean after all and that she'd seen how sad the breakup made me. She walked me into this very fancy restaurant. We met at a table with one of her colleagues and his gross son. Carl was a complete jerk. I was disgusted by him, but my mom and Carl's dad kept pushing me to talk to him. I tried to be polite, but he was so weird. He talked with his mouth full and was super mean. Everyone at the table was laughing about how he threw a soda on a homeless man and bought the last ice cream at a cafe and made a little girl cry. They just thought he was hilarious. All I saw was a nasty jerk I never wanted to see again. When we got to the car, I told my mom I wasn't interested in him at all. She told me my options were to date her friend's son or date no one at all. My mom told me that while I lived under her roof and used her money to make my decision.
I'm sorry, but you can't own your own child. How they feel and what they want to do with their life. It's not your decision, honey. Sorry.
So I stayed single. All of my friends were off dances and dating. I was stuck at home studying. I thought that was the worst of it, but I was wrong. It all started again when the topic of college came up. My parents were incredibly excited.
Let me guess, they chose your college.
And got into every single one of them. I got to choose literally whichever I wanted.
Oh,
the more I thought about it, the more I realized that business wasn't for me. In fact, I hated business. I wanted to do something that made me happy. I actually wanted to go into art. When my final acceptance letter came in the mail telling me I got a full scholarship to the most prestigious art school in the world, I was so excited. I thought my parents would be excited too, you know?
Nope,
apparently, my dreams didn't actually matter though. After I received an award for my academic achievements, my parents took me out for a big fancy meal with all of their colleagues. I should have been happy too, but something didn't feel right. I slouched deeper and deeper in my chair as they continued to talk about how much better I was than everyone else, and how it was all because of their excellent parenting. Worse, when all of their colleagues started asking them what their big secret was to raising a perfect daughter, they talked about how I studied all the time and they enforced strict rules. They even laughed about how they broke up my relationship with some bum. I was going to talk about my big plans privately with them, but they were being unbearable. I got so angry when they started making fun of how sad they felt for the parents of pathetic art students. In fact, I was so angry that I decided now was a better time than any to share the great news. Actually, I shouted over the voice of my mother boasting.
You tell him, girl.
I have
You
something
tell him.
I'd like to tell all of you. I've never seen my mother flip around so quickly in my whole life. She had an evil glare on her face that almost made me change my mind. But I felt I had to do it.
Tell him.
I gathered up all
Tell
of
him,
my courage
bro.
and let them know that I'd been accepted into a famous art school. Their colleagues seemed pretty impressed, but my parents were shocked and upset. They didn't talk to me for the rest of the dinner, but in the car, that was a whole other story. They screamed at me for embarrassing them and betraying them in front of their colleagues. They shouted about how I was never going to do something like that. They even tried to tell me that they'd never seen my art before, which wasn't true because my mom did with me. They never paid attention to me at all. When we got I had a portfolio. It was full of the paintings and sketches that I applied to the school with. These paintings had taken hours to create. I was really proud of them. I thought it would convince them that I had real talent, but I was wrong again. My parents ripped it to shreds in front of me. They told me I wouldn't be going to any school but the one they chose. We are paying for everything after all. I was so angry and explained that I got a full scholarship to the art school so I wouldn't need them. They continued on about how they'd wasted their whole lives for me to betray them. My mother was crying and my father started smashing things. They threw me out of the house. I stayed with a friend and explained everything. I had nothing with me at all. I called up my parents and they asked if I had changed my mind about school yet. When I said no, they told me I wasn't welcome back. I asked if I could at least come and pick up some of my stuff. I was stuck wearing the same elegant evening wear from the dinner before. They agreed.
I mean, sometimes it's a fact of just they don't give you a loan and expect you to do what they want you to do, and I don't find that fair.
When I showed up, they handed me a paper. "What's this?" I asked. My parents laughed and explained it was the art I loved so much. I told them it wasn't funny and pushed past them to run to my room.
Wow.
It was completely empty. They explained that they'd sold all of my belongings to make back some of the money wasted on me. They'd literally sold all my possessions just to get their revenge, only because I wasn't interested in business.
I'm sorry, but
all
parents
of my furniture,
aren't that
clothes,
bad.
and priceless gifts and photographs were gone, and they said that I would regret everything. I went to art school in the fall. I had to rely on food and clothes from my friends. Luckily, my scholarship covered most of my supplies, and I got a job pretty quickly thanks to a little help from my friends. It wasn't all bad in the end. During my first day working at a grocery store, I ran into none other than Jackson.
Oh,
He was surprised to see me working at a place
again.
like that. I broke down and explained everything, and he invited me out to dinner to celebrate my newfound freedom.
Good.
Jackson and I reconnected, and things have been going great with us. He now owns his family taco truck, and even if he's not rich, he's very happy. In fact, I just posted about our proposal on Instagram. We plan to get married in a couple of months. It was a lot of work, but I have to say it was completely worth it. I'm a successful artist now, living my dreams. In a way, I'm happy my parents pushed me like they did, as it gave me passion, but that doesn't mean I'm grateful to them. My parents never apologized to me for anything. In fact, they did something even worse. Without any warning or hello, they called me and demanded money. They explained that they'd heard how successful I was and that I should now be able to pay them back for all the money they'd wasted on me at private school. Plus, they said I owed them for embarrassing them for bringing that taco boy back into my life.
Wow.
They told me I had 1 week to break up with him or else. I don't know what else means, but I don't think I ever want to find out. Jackson said that my parents are just being dramatic, but I know my mom, and whatever she has planned can't be good.